Okay, well, a question on funding then. So we know football, the UK #1 sport, following COVID and the cost of living crisis, 2,600 grassroots clubs folded. With the majority of sports in the UK supported by UK Sport, how do you think individual federations or the government can help funding across our sports to help encourage more accessibility?
That's a difficult question to answer because I'm not involved in politics, but I'm very passionate about sport and giving opportunities for people that wouldn't have those opportunities. Sport's really expensive in a lot of sports. It's hard, and I think all I can talk about is from my sort of experience at Brighton Table Tennis Club. It's an amazing club, and I think Sport England's helped it out a bit as well. But it offers free sessions for people that are on free school meals, for refugees, and it basically gives people the opportunity that wouldn't have it to play, and it prioritises those people. Yeah. So basically, if you're on free school meals, you get priority over everyone. And if you come from like a difficult background, or if you've got a disability, you get priority over everyone. And I think that's great because I think that's what sport is all about. And I think the government and everyone has to see the benefits of that because it brings communities together, and it helps those people that really need it.
Well, that's the thing about sport. Sport's a great leveler. Anyone can play in theory, and it's a meritocracy. Like the good people, do well, but that doesn't happen unless everyone has decent access to play sport and everyone has the equal opportunity to play it, which, as you say, isn't always the case.
Exactly, it's not. And I've seen it from my first hand. Like I say, Brighton Table Tennis Club, you could have, a homeless person playing CEO, or you can have a refugee who literally just comes to the country, can't speak English, playing against, someone like me, and I think it's that is powerful because communities come together, and if you don't have that, then there's division, in society and stuff like that. So it's quite powerful actually that you see people come together, just talking, getting on, and that's what sport brings. That's quite powerful. It's power of sport.
For me, I think it's about providing them with the resources to be able to create good sessions. I think for some reason, we're gatekeeping these session plans and drills and stuff. And I think a lot of coaches genuinely just maybe don't know how to run a good netball session. So I think England Netball can produce. They've got all the resources to be able to produce drills, ideas, and resources on how to make a session. I think let's make these accessible. Let's give them to coaches, to clubs, to teachers, and to try and create really great session plans.
So there's always more gymnastics clubs being open, whether that's through a community site such as a school hall or a leisure centre, or whether that's through a purpose-built site. Without that exposure, that grassroots level, you're never going to get your elite level sports such as your Max Whitlock, Niall Wilson, Jessica Ennis-Hill. There's so many names, and I think if you speak to all of them, it was because they were able to access a local facility. So there's don't get me wrong, there's always more that can be done. There's always more opportunities that we can provide for children, and I think that's part of why I do what I do every single day, finding new sites, finding new opportunities within Gymfinity Kids to provide that opportunity. Gymnastics is very much still, although we've got male role models, you still do hear kids saying it's a girls' sport. So ultimately, I want to provide more opportunities for boys to get into the sport. And by providing Ninja as an opportunity, it's creating those grassroots levels in different ways for every child to get involved in the sport.
That is super important, I think.
Yeah.
Getting boys into it, definitely.
Clubs go out of business and are unable to continue. We need that grassroots level. So whether that's support through the government or the authorities of the particular sport, if it's football, for example, filter down the money that's in the chain. It's got to go through the pyramid, and especially to grassroots. That's where the future is. So our future talent, our future players, but look at the other side of it. We're not just talking about eventually to an elite level. Obesity is a huge thing nowadays. Just fitter, healthier, physically and mentally for youngsters, anyone that's participating in stuff. You know, if things are folding and going out of business or unable to continue, we've got to find a way of supporting that, because it's crucial in the bigger picture for us as a nation and a country. Government, sporting bodies can't underestimate things like that. So we've got to get the grassroots level funded and supported.
It's about survival at this point, isn't it, for a lot of grassroots clubs? I think it's just one of those where just fund, we just need, even little bits really do matter. You know, as a team at Chesterfield Ladies, like, we do struggle funding wise, and everyone has to chip in to make things work. So it's just about making sure that from the government side, like, you know, putting the money in the right pots and making sure that everyone's getting those equal opportunities to still play at grassroots. I mean, some people, grassroots is not a lot, but for a lot of people, it's like the best thing. It's what you look forward to at the end of the week. So if you just put that little bit of funding in, then it goes so far.
It'd be nice to take the onus off the players, wouldn't it, as well, at some point? You know what I mean? Like, because at a grassroots level, yeah, a lot of people do have to really sort of self-fund all the way, and that's fine. Sometimes that's part of it, but it'd be nice to take that burden off a little bit. And in a way, I guess then you're probably opening up the exposure and accessibility to more people. Some people might not be able to afford to fund playing at the weekend.
That's it. I'm sure a lot of people don't get to play because of that. You know, you got to pay your subs each week when you were younger. Like, if your parents aren't paying for that, then you're not getting to play, are you? So it's just about how can there be more support in those areas so that, like you say, the burden's taken off people.
This episode is powered by Shoshin.
Shoshin are here for the up-and-comers, the never-giver-uppers, the risers and the fallers, fueling the journey of all athletes with quality products.
For every kick, hit, pass, Shoshin are there. Sharing your passion for nurturing athletes. Together, we can empower the next generation of athletes, one game at a time.
Ready to play. Set to improve. Shoshin.
To find out more information on Shoshin and where to purchase their amazing products, visit www.shoshin-sports.com.
Look, I think a lot of it's about joined up thinking. I think it's not that people are trying to do the right thing, it's just that everybody's trying to do something maybe a little bit different. So I think it's more about everybody joining up, bringing in because then you've got larger resources. So bringing it all in and bringing it all together, having the right partners, having the right role models, ambassadors going in, empowering the young people, taking a bit of stress off teachers. So how can I put it? It's not always just about funding. It's more about the resources and what you do with those resources.
Good answer.
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's a lot, not just governments, but local people and communities can do for themselves as well. You know, I'm a big believer in community. I think that's come out in the talk, but I thought ultimately it's about people. What do you want to do? You know, what's the reward? What's the risk and reward? And I think COVID's sort of opened everybody up a little bit to thinking a little bit deeper than probably they did before, and not taking things for granted like we probably did before. So I think there's lots of ways, amateurs, education, certainly government. I mean, there's a lot going on about health now, and you know how difficult it is to get an appointment at your doctor's because, you know, you've got a problem. So I think health comes through eating well, sleeping well, you know, not taking as many risks, you know, working better if you've got work, that is, you know. So I think there's a lot that can definitely be improved on, but basically break it right down to what really matters. What does really matter in your way of thinking, in your life? You know, what is your lifestyle? You know, there's a lot of reward in not being wealthy if you go looking for it. Don't get me wrong, wealth helps to certain degrees, but I think it can all be driven by what is it what community you're living in, what can you bring to the table. There's a lot of good work going on out there, to be fair. A lot at all levels of trying to help disproportionate people, I suppose. Yeah. And I always had the attitude that there's always somebody worse off than you, so why whinge about what your problems are when there's a million things going on elsewhere. Just get on with it.
Oh, yeah, there's been a lot of, I guess, issues or behind closed doors, like politics behind rugby that, you know, I think the game obviously needs a bit more help with. if I had the answers, I'd give them to you. Then it'd be a quick fix. But obviously, you got to look after your grassroots. I mean, that's why New Zealand thrives. Like we just honestly support grassroots teams from your under 4s all the way up, you know, to your men's and senior teams. So looking after those clubs, which will then in turn help those more your semi-professional teams like in the champ and then your premiership clubs. It's just trying to build up those numbers below so that we can get more kids playing the sport, more kids having fun. Then obviously getting the parents on board will really help with the viability of the game, I guess. So if they can, just help support the little clubs, pump as much money as you can down below, let it grow. You'll be laughing.
Grassroots is the lifeblood of any sport, isn't it?
We did a lot of work over the last probably decade in terms of aligning all of the governance and all of the sports around Sport England. So we weren't a funded body, we weren't recognised as a sport. So every time you were looking to get funding, the drop-down lists were always rugby league or rugby union, and that was never a thing. So over a decade's worth of work, and that there was a lot of documentation, meetings, etc. Finally, in 2020, and I think I started this process in probably 2013, 14. Finally got the final bit of submission documentation to Sport England. COVID happened, and the final piece of the puzzle was after I'd just left, but everything was kind of like boxes ready to be ticked. That has now happened. The sport is recognised as a system partner. It just opens a lot more funding doors. It doesn't specifically go, here's a ton of money now, but it opens a lot more funding opportunities. So in terms of that side, that's, as an aside, is kind of what was needed to kind of set the governance, set the formal structures. I'd say in terms of other opportunities to be supported is, there's partnerships with schools that can kind of start happening. There's create funded school partnerships. There's different clubs and providers and opportunities in that space, and after school clubs, competitions, sport games. There's training grants in that kind of arena. There's the local authorities as well. So they provide like Sport for All initiatives and lots of different kind of opportunities that funding can bring in. And I guess it's because it ticks all of the boxes, like a Sport for All, with it being so inclusive with mixed genders and all of the different age categories. It fits nicely into the narrative of actually anyone can come and do this. It doesn't need to be like there's no like restrictions. You don't need to go back, oh, are you this, are you that? It's everyone can kind of be involved. There certainly is a space for the corporate funding, sponsorship stuff. Like that's always going to be a space to run things in that space as well. But I certainly think there's the increased visibility and demand of the sport is becoming a lot more prevalent, which means the people that want to fund and sponsor stuff, like you can highlight those inclusive stuff, the fun aspects of it, the family aspects, and I think there's a lot of these bigger companies have got a corporate social responsibility to kind of help and be involved in some of that stuff. Then they've got budgets of that kind of CSR piece that can assist in some of that. But yeah, I think from a volunteer support is huge across all sports. It's kind of the backbone of sport, isn't it? If all the governing bodies shut down tomorrow, all the volunteers will still be out on a Sunday and the games will still happen.
100%.
And I think we've all got to kind of, even though you think like, oh, we are the centre of this sport, the volunteers are the backbone of all of that. But yeah, I think it's a multi-angled approach, isn't it, in terms of some of it's funding, some of it's partnership with schools, links with businesses, accessing kind of different funding pots along the way as well.